What's up, everyone? Welcome to Chicks and Salsa. I am Megan Price, and I have Jen Matthews Lewis next to me, and then we got Candy from the South Florida Tribune below. How is your ladies' weeks going so far? I know it's kind of early in the week, but how's it going?
Pretty good. No banks have claps this week, so we're good. How about you, Candy?
Right.
I would say my weekend was a lot better than my week is so far. We headed down to Key
Oh,
West, and
man.
we were Saturday night. We went on a sunset boat cruise, having a lot of fun. So yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
I saw the pictures. I was a little jelly. I'm not going to lie.
I would be too.
And Megan, I saw you looking fire at the pool this weekend. I
It
was
was
not.
it was my best friend's birthday, and as y'all know, my best friend is extremely. She makes a big deal out of my birthday and her birthday too. So it was a not just a birthday party, but it was a birthday weekend, like a 4 day affair. It was very dramatic and tons of fun. So happy birthday, Jamie! I love you so much. But super excited for the show that we have for everybody tonight. We're really excited about this. This is probably one of our biggest guests that we've ever had. And we share a name, so we'll go ahead and bring her on. We have Megan Imbert joining us.
Yes, we do.
Hi, Megan. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Doing really well. I am sharing the show to a couple of our Twitter groups real quick, y'all, and then we can jump into this. So, Megan, tell us what you do. Like, what's on your business card?
I feel like I'm a jack of all trades at this point. So
Right.
currently, I'm a global marketing director. I work for Cisco, the large tech company. I've been in that role for about 7 months. So I lead a team globally in terms of field marketing, corporate events, customer advocacy, executive briefings. So I've been in the tech space, originally in cybersecurity, since I left the then Washington Commanders, or I should say whatever name they are at this point.
Right.
Sorry, a little bit.
WTFs? I mean, WFTs?
I originally, though, I studied media technologies and marketing in college. I had internships. I started in Washington in public relations, and then I had the opportunity to move on into television. So I was there from 19 years old to 25 years old. And then because of everything, well, I shouldn't say everything everyone knows with the reports that never were released, the toxic work environment and other things, I ended up moving on and had a wonderful opportunity to get into cybersecurity, actually working at the time for Symantec Corporation. So yeah, it's right now I'm in marketing, but I still have a passion for, I love doing a podcast. I'm curious about people. So I think this is a lot of fun, and it's also tapping into some creativity. And in hindsight, this has come full circle where it's been interesting when I used to be scared to be on the camera, and now
Right.
the message is just flowing through me because I'm talking up for so many people that couldn't. So it's pretty fascinating.
I love that you put it that way because personally I have um a preference for women's basketball, and like just kind of feel like I have a purpose in my life when I get a chance to talk about women's basketball. So I love that you put it that way. But let's talk a little bit. Where did you grow up, and how did you find sports?
Yeah, I'm actually from Loudoun County. So I grew up in Lovettsville, if anyone knows where that is. Not far from Percival or Ashburn, where the training facility is located. One of my neighbors, who unfortunately has passed away, she was in the scouting department, Kathy Wazen. So she was a long time, her family had a lot of roots within Washington. And she had said, well, why don't you try and get an internship with the team? And I'll be honest, at first, like I grew up a Steeler fan, and I was like, ooh,
Right.
Going to work for Washington was a little interesting, but I felt like this is an awesome opportunity. Let me go see. And then it was a great opportunity to get my foot in the door, especially studying media and wanting to be an investigative journalist, that I was able to meet all of this press corps that come 10 years later, or however long it's been, so many of these same writers are now on the national circuit, or like it's been a weird reunion with so many people that I met when I was, a 19-year-old PR intern.
And so, talk a little bit about what it was like going in as an intern with Washington. Like what area did you start as an intern, and then like what did you work up to?
Yeah, I started out as a public relations intern in 2006 in the summer. So that was really an interesting experience. I'll never forget that.
That was me.
I know. I'll never forget. Sean Taylor was actually the one that opened the door for me when I went in for my interview.
Oh, wow.
And that was,
really?
So it was an interesting experience. So that summer I was at training camp doing all of the quotes. You do a lot of the quotes, transcriptions from any player interviews, coaches interviews, put together some of the playbooks and things like that. So it was a lot of preparing media credentials, making sure a lot of that organization was done. And then that season, going into 2007, I had the opportunity to be an intern for the television department working for Larry Michaels' organization. And so I took that opportunity, and that was one where I was in charge of Redskin.com TV videos, helped make commercial spots, produced all of the interviews that would be, on the website. We'd help out with, if you were to go into the stadium, the video board, we would produce all of those. And there were a number of TV shows in the season. And when the season came about, I was entering my fall of my college career, my senior year, where the department said, if you're serious about this, why don't you figure it out? Let's work with your college to see how, you could be an intern for the season. And that was an amazing opportunity. And talk about a wild season. That was unfortunately the year Sean was murdered. So that was a really incredible just moment, and the people that were a part of that building during that time as well. And then I stuck with it. I had a couple different jobs. By the time I graduated, I started as a production assistant, and then over the years moved up the ranks from production assistant to producer. And then finally I left as production manager of the department. So I guess 3 years technically full-time, but 5 years with the organization. So I was there for Coach Gibbs, Zorn, and Shanahan.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so as we know, like how kind of things have come out, and it hasn't all come out, obviously. And I mean, I don't know if they're the right word for it, but just dumpster fire comes to mind. It just seems like all aspects of Washington football has just blown up. But I want to talk about what is probably the most positive experience you had there, or one maybe where you were starstruck, or what was your favorite project you worked on?
Yeah, there was a lot of good with the bad. And that's also where I think people stick things out, because not only was our department in TV, we were also trying to win Emmys. And that was a really incredible experience. And then at the same time, obviously, we want the team to perform well and win Super Bowls. So it was a really amazing experience when I won an Emmy. I even wrote down a little bucket list. Like, I want to win an Emmy by the time I'm 25, and did it at 24. I was able to take my dad with me. He looked like James Bond. It was really cute. And at the time I was like, I don't see marriage in my future right now. Dad's coming with me with a tie. I think that was a really incredible, special life moment that I was able to share with him. And then I always just really enjoyed when I would, I had a lot of flexibility in what we were able to produce for some of the shows. So if anyone was familiar with some of the charitable days on Tuesdays, I loved to be able to show the passions of some of the players in terms of the sides outside of football, and if there were causes that they cared about, or the interaction with kids and the community. That just was so incredible sometimes when you really learn about someone's upbringing and what's made them who they are. So I love to be able to put together those stories and get to more than the football. But you can't you can't replace the excitement of like a game day on Sunday and, you know, at the time a full crowd at, you know, FedEx Field, right? So
Right.
you're
Right.
also, sports is interesting because it's such an important part of our society, and or I should say globally too, global society, in terms of an intersection point for people to escape some of the things in life. They have connections with family members or whoever. Like sports has a really interesting space in our identity as people. So I think
Right.
it was cool to be a part of that, and knowing like you really are making, there's a meaningful part. And that's also where the work we've been doing the past 3 years is so important, because of all of those intersection points and how influential, especially the NFL is. You know, it's about to be a $25 billion annual year business. There's so
Right.
many partners and everybody
Yeah.
associated. So that's a long-winded answer to your question. The Emmy Award, and then I think
That's fine.
I loved seeing the other side of the game and the impact, and how if a player knew the power of the name on their jersey and how many people either look up to them or, you know, could help with a cause just by advocating for it. Like that was incredible to watch.
Mm-hmm. I was fortunate. I used to live uptown until my husband made me move back to the suburbs. Boo. But they, so like in our building, we were right in front of the practice facilities for the Carolina Panthers, right beside Bank of America Stadium. And a lot of my neighbors were current and now former Panthers. But just so many of these guys are just such epically huge sweethearts. Like Taylor Mountain. I think he remembers me, but like in a large crowd, he wouldn't remember me. You know what I mean? But like, mountain of a freaking man. I would want to follow him behind a dark alley, but he is the nicest individual I have ever met. I have a girl crush on his wifey, and they have the cutest kid. Like, but seeing the impact that he makes on people, like, and like Alex Arma, like I loved being he was the only one I would fangirl out on. So like he was our fullback, so I would like fangirl out on him whenever he made a touchdown. And like his family would look at me like I was batty, but I was like, "See, aren't you proud of me, Megan? Candy, I didn't cuss this time. Yay, go me!" And
Right.
it's just amazing. Did you become friends with any of the players? Were you like, do you still talk to any of them?
I absolutely became friends with some of them. I think this situation, I am curious because keep in mind, I also moved to Texas for a job opportunity. So I haven't really been in the DC area. I haven't ran into anyone really since. I've ran into a couple people affiliated. So I am curious how some of those conversations might go given how the past 3 years have gone. And I know a few have reached out. Some wives have also reached out, just how proud they are.
Oh, yeah.
And it's tough because I also realize there's some people still affiliated with the organization. They have love for the organization, alumni. Their identities are caught up in the team. And I think that's part of where I'm hoping this is a fresh start. And I'm hoping these new owners can really, I welcome the opportunity for some of us to ever meet with them and talk with them, because there's such an opportunity with the DC area, the alumni. People want to be connected to the team. They want to be proud of the team. And I think some of the things that have been revealed and the things that we know, the things that haven't been revealed, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I think you have to face where you have been to really get to where you need to go. And that requires uncomfortable conversations. It requires, we've been really, gaslit and avoided by the league. The league will not communicate with. This is going on for years, where we wanted to talk to them, and that's been extremely, extremely disappointing and frustrating, because I see this so much bigger than Washington. I see this bigger than Dan Snyder selling the team. I see this as a potential systemic issue. And I still keep in touch with some people, but definitely I'm sure this situation is probably a little awkward for them. But I guess, I think hopefully people will know, like, my heart has been in the right place with this. And
They know.
The background on this too is that, you know, the Washington Post had reached out to me like 2 or 3 years prior to 2020 to talk. And I was like, wait, talk about an organization ran by a billionaire? That was terrifying. And then when Emily Applegate, you know, we're coming up on 3 years of her first article in the Post coming out. I didn't know her, but I just reached out and said, like, first of all, do you have a lawyer? I care about you. I don't know you. I never worked with you, but like, let's figure this out. And I'm going to join this with you at first, thinking through like anonymously, how can I figure it out? And then, I mean, within 48 hours, I learned about those explicit videos of the cheerleaders. And that was my department producing it. And I gave them 6 weeks notice of my quitting. I'm still livid about it. I think those are crimes. I'm
definitely.
At that point, I was like, my niece is a little dancer. You know, she's 14 years old now, but like 12 when this came out. And I was like, I'll be damned if this is happening at the professional level and no one's going to say anything. Imagine what's going on. Like, we just saw the article on Northwestern today. One of the cheerleaders, Hayden Richardson, I think her name is. I'm like, what a brave person. And I'm hoping more people are inspired to just speak out. This is unacceptable. So at that point, I went on record. But yeah, it's really tough.
It is, because when you're doing the right thing, it's not easy.
No, it's not always popular. It's not always the popular thing to do either.
It was a very, very quiet, lonely time, I would say, especially between August of 2020 and probably October, when we, you know, all of a sudden it was like ESPN, and we're like, I mean, if you go back and look at some of those clips, my face is like red. Like, I'm ready to throw up at any moment. It was closest thing to a panic attack, anxiety attack. And it's wild to think we're going on 3 years, but also to see how the positive, you were asking about some positives. There's some positives in this situation too, where I think by talking to the other women and some of the men, it's been validating. It's starting to help us kind of heal and also realize, like, wow, this bad thing happened to me, but we can make this a good, positive thing. And frankly, this is really painful. There's a lot of people that have been hurt through this process. So it's very complex in all those different areas, but at the same time, I've have like a sisterhood. I have some of the best friends I could ever think about now, like with Melanie Coburn, who came out after the videos and she learned about that. I mean, I talk to her every single day. Had that not happened, like, she's family to me, right? So I think, you know, Congress, people were critical. Why did they get involved? There's legislation that's now resulting in the inappropriate use of NDAs. There's all of this stuff has a domino effect. And the Me Too movement started in 2017. You know, we're 6 years into that. This is not, we're in the real infancy of these big systems and challenging the status quo. Sorry, I know.
I definitely.
Sorry, Megan.
No, and I will say, no, you're fine. And I will say, like, I think that, you know, we've already seen how the NFL deals with certain high profile issues, you know, obviously the Colin Kaepernick issue, the CTE issue. So, like, while yes, there are going to be diehard fans and they're going to be upset about what's being exposed, I think there's a lot of us, and I don't know, I don't want to just say especially women, but probably especially women, because of what a lot of people have gone through in their own work environment like that. I want to say, like, I don't think that I'm personally not critical of you for coming out and saying that. Like, I mean,
you're a hero of ours.
And also to know, like, we know how the NFL is, for Congress to have to be involved. That's because of how they chose to deal with it, or lack of dealing with it, so it's not because of y'all. That's because they chose not to deal with it in the right way.
But I do love that. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's also power structures. And when I think about someone like Roger Goodell, and I have to thank Melanie for this, I've really worked on my compassion for people, even though I have my issues with them. I have to think Roger is also a product of that environment. He was an intern, and then he got into power. He's a product of whatever that environment was. And that's
Right.
where I think it's really big of how I'm thinking about this in terms of even Snyder getting this $5 billion. Like, gosh, I really hope he used some of that money to get some therapy, and imagine the good he could do in the world with that money. And
I hope he has to pay it all back to the IRS for the sets of books. But that's just me.
Well, I'm sure with the other investigations going, there's a lot of other investigations going on where that,
Right.
Don't want to speculate, but I'm with you there.
And so do you think now that the team has been sold, do you feel like there is going to be like a level of healing, not only for the fans, but for that, just the organization? Are they going to be able to move forward, or is it too far gone?
My opinion on this is, I think you almost have to start fresh.
Okay.
In my opinion, it feels like, I don't want to use the word of an expansion team or something like that, but you're talking about a completely new identity. While you might have some of your history and the things that, made the franchise great, it's a different franchise. And I think that needs to be embraced in a good way too, but honoring the past, the good parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they have an opportunity to market this in a way that's where we've learned from any past errors, Dan Snyder era.
Right.
But I think ultimately it's just a mindset where I think also fans that are so tied, there's so many people tied to the colors, to the names, to these things. I think looking at it as an opportunity to really start fresh and build something that could be, you had such a storied franchise before, that's hard to even compete with anyway. So it's like, I think it's everyone rallying together around building something better than both pre-Dan and Dan.
So here's my question. Do you think it's interesting that RG3 actually was the first one to really speak up publicly back in 2016?
I don't think he was the first one to speak up. LeVar Arrington's been speaking up.
Oh, that's true. I forgot.
Now RG3, I don't take anything he says seriously. So yeah, his book.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, you're really not the only one.
But LeVar Arrington absolutely was, I would say, one of the brave first people that really spoke out and had been consistently. And I give him props for that because he got a lot of ridicule for a lot of things, and he's one of them. And I know other people have shot it to them straight. Someone like Brian Mitchell. I know he's said things truthfully. I recently listened to Doc Walker, who, keep in mind, he was talent on one of my shows I produced. Right, like we were very close. So it is interesting because I haven't spoken to some of these people, but I do appreciate if they're coming at it from a way of, there were mistakes made, and now how do we correct those things? And people aren't perfect. I'm all for people having redemption, taking accountability. All we've been asking for this entire time is transparency and accountability. But the way the league has handled this and other people, that there hasn't been. There's been this common interest agreement, all sorts of things, lies, cover-ups. So that's the part. I saw the comment on someone saying this whole thing has made it hard to even root for the NFL. And I'm with you. Like, until there's systemic change, I could never root for less interested in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the part where separating, there's the fun part of the game, but realizing there's real people that make the game possible, both on the field and behind the scenes.
Right.
So do you think this is like just the first domino to fall in place of that happening?
I absolutely think it's probably one of the bigger ones. There's definitely questionable things that have taken place, Jerry Jones being one of them. His head PR guy, videotaping cheerleaders. There's also the stuff that's come out about the Arizona Cardinals owner. There's the reporter that was on the NFL Network, Jim Trotter, who refused to sign an NDA or take severance, and he has definitely been critical of the NFL's practices. I think more people are just getting fed up, and they're going to start speaking out. And people like us, we're not taking the hush money. We're not being silenced. Gruden going forward with Discovery. I think there's a lot of things that they haven't seen before, because typically people will take a check, and we haven't done that. So this is completely, I think we've been, sorry, my dog's barking.
No problem. No. It's no problem.
She and I both have dogs, and Candy has a kitty cat. So we're for parents.
I just think overall, this whole situation, we've been really underestimated. I don't think people expected that we would be grassroots talking to congressional members and everything. Like,
so when you were on Congress, like, I don't want to go too much into your testimony, but how did that feel?
So I wasn't a part of the actual roundtable. Okay. Other folks were.
You were talking to staffers and behind the scenes.
I was definitely a part of briefing people ahead of, after, and I think I did a live commentary that day when everybody did their testimonies. It was emotional to watch. I was so proud of everyone. People like Brad Baker that I worked with, he can't speak out, but he's one of the ones that talked about the videos. He was my right-hand person I'd sit next to at work every day, right? So I'm super proud of the people that have come forward bravely to share their stories. It's really difficult. And before we went on record for the audience, these situations are really tough, in particular this one, where some of us, especially those who have been on record, participating in multiple investigations, participating in interviews. This is a constant repeat of experiences. Right. So it's one of those where I want this group to be able to heal, but we're not going to stop what we're doing until there truly is accountability. For me, Snyder selling the team is not accountability.
No.
Here's your $5 billion check.
Absolutely not.
That's not accountable. And then the NFL, as we're learning with ESPN reporting, AJ Perez, all these Washington Post, amazing reporters. I appreciate their persistence and their tenacity, because they are exposing what's been going on, and NFL needs to be accountable.
He admires and respects you. Like, I saw that Twitter exchange last night on with you and AJ.
Oh.
I wasn't trying to cyber stalk you, but I accidentally was, because I'd been talking about you, so like you kept coming up in my feed last night, and like I was reading what AJ was saying, and I was just like, this man really respects Megan and the other ladies. I was like, that's awesome.
You're giving me chills right now, because there's a few people too, like Darren Haynes, for instance. I'll pull it up real quick. I sent him a text because he just got his new job offer in California, and I just said, congratulations. What?
I saw that on Twitter somewhere yesterday. Well,
I texted him saying, congrats on your job. I appreciate your persistent support the last few years. Thank you for always representing us with the questions, because he could easily ignore us when he's at an owner's meeting. And he just said, thank you all for allowing me to be a part of history. Like, that's the kind of thing where I think they're understanding too, like, they've had a massive role to play. This is historical. And I don't think we've seen what it's going to lead to, right? We're living it. It's wild.
Megan, I have a question.
Sure.
As a fan of the NFL, because we have a lot of fans out there.
Yep.
What is us as fans? What can we do to help the cause, and help bring awareness, I guess, to everybody?
Yeah, I think right now, this week in particular is very fascinating, considering, there should be a sale by Thursday or Friday. I understand there's money transactions. I think if the NFL does not release this Mary Jo White report Friday or Monday or whatever, I think I would love for fans to care, because this has all actually led to this moment. And the release, the report, that's why I wore the shirt tonight. I mean, I think there will be, at least on our side, an uproar in terms of what the heck is going on. And certainly that is going to be really disappointing. I think, generally speaking, there's a lot of conversation around what happens in different workplaces. And I think the fans can pay attention to their own workplaces, starting to speak up, not tolerating certain behaviors, figuring out how to be there or be an ally to someone in a room. So I think there's a lot we each can do. And imagine if we all did the right thing, what a better world that could be. So I think every day it's kind of like, what can we control? How can we be better? This situation's been fascinating for me because I got into people management in 2019, right at the beginning of the pandemic. And also as like a female in tech too, it's also a male dominated industry. It's been really interesting for me in my own growth and how I want to show up as a leader and under stressful situations or whatnot, or if I ever encounter, a man being inappropriate or something, like, how am I addressing it? And then how am I doing what the 19-year-old me would have been too scared to do, and learning from that.
Right,
And like
right.
men listening, I think I get comments all the time, like, can I give someone a compliment? Like, or where's this line drawn, and it's like, there's a way of being appropriate and there's a way of not being appropriate. And also if
Right.
comfortable and they talk about it, like, full stop, that's it. So I think that's another part of what I would say fans can do. Naturally, I know people are going to support the team. That's great. But I think that we need to have some support in terms of accountability for what the NFL's role was in this. And I'm very curious to see if they release anything on Friday, probably try to sink it into the weekend and, get overshadowed by the news of the sale. That's my prediction.
Oh,
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it does. But that's what everybody does.
Yeah.
So on we do 3 chicks and chicks and salsa. We usually like to end on something happy because we do a lot of investigative style type of journalism, and it gets heavy sometimes. So on a lighter note, I heard you say you moved to Texas. Food is huge here. So what has been the best food since you've moved down here, and what's been your favorite part about moving to Texas?
What's interesting, so I am in Austin now, and given that your show, Chips and Salsa, I mean, Tex-Mex down here is a problem. The food here is very,
we love
very
it.
good. So, I would say I've had to lay off the queso. It's so good.
It's hard.
Yeah,
That's my middle name, by the way.
One,
Right.
oh yeah, one pizza spot I really like that surprised me. It's called Via 313. It's Detroit style, which I never really had, and it's like square. It's delicious. So that's something really special here.
Watch out, Megan. Our friend Dom may hit you up for a date on that comment because he's our Michigan boy.
Nice. Right. Well, wishing you the best, and hopefully I can help you find a good Tex-Mex spot there in Austin. I would live there for a little while, and I had a problem finding authentic Tex-Mex in Austin because it felt like all Chipotle, it just kind of had a whitewash flavor to it. But I will help you find a actual hole in the wall Tex-Mex place.
There's also a place I think
as
it's
soon as
called
possible.
Downtown's called La Condesa, and that's a little bit
Okay.
fancier, but it's it's delicious and really good margaritas.
Okay, I have a question for you, Megan. I lived in New Mexico for 3/4 of a decade. Have you had Hatch New Mexican green chilies at all yet?
So yes, and that is fascinating because a lot of restaurants in Austin, you'll eat something and you won't expect, you're like, why, what is that spice about? They'll add that at random to various dishes without any rhyme or reason.
I do it to my husband at home all the time. I get it.
I'm like, it's one of those green chilies. I was like, what, is this a thing? We just pop green chilies into dishes without.
In New Mexico, it is. There's green chilies and everything. I found some green chilies in my chili relleno, all kinds of stuff. Why are they putting this here? But okay, it was great.
Hi, Marilyn. I love you. Marilyn is one of my favorite people ever. Just so you know.
Nice.
She's amazing. And okay, so I have one more question. Would you possibly be willing to come back on our show again? Because we've loved having you. Awesome.
Absolutely.
And I know Carrie said she's not on.
There's so much to talk about. I do appreciate your all support in all of this too.
Of course.
It's
yeah.
Like
come
the
on,
Netflix
release the
special
report. We waited.
What?
All of us have waited, and you've got a huge female conglomerate here and fan base and people who've gone to the Super Bowl. 2 of us have gone. Me this year. Candy's gone in the past.
I've never been to a Super Bowl.
Well, let's see about getting you on our show and getting you
Which is so crazy.
So
Colin. Oh,
Colin, your friend.
I do like being able to see Colin actually, he's
Hi,
been
Colin.
a huge ally for us. He joined me and Melanie when we went into FedEx and we protested at that change game. He helped with giving out T-shirts of Release the Report. He's if you look at his profile on Twitter, you'll see he's inside of the facility, I think at the podium, he's standing there with his Release the Report shirt on. I'm sure the organization at the time appreciated him showing up with our gear, right?
Is there a way we can get the gear? Because I would love to wear that.
Potentially. So we had a, what's it called? Custom ink page. And then we had proceeds going to the National Women's Law Center, which helps this infrastructure for legal support. It seemed like a natural fit. We might run again, either that or do another separate order. I think it all depends on what happens, this coming week. But there might be some extras that I could ask Melanie, and maybe we can get some out.
I would love that for sure.
Yeah, I would too. I've kind of wanted one, but I wasn't sure where to get it. And if my girl Morgan is still watching, Morgan, if you know about this, let me know, because Morgan is my attorney friend who used to be my neighbor uptown too. So when you agreed, I messaged her and I was like, Morgan, you're never going to believe it. She's like, oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I have a feeling a lot of lawyers are just watching this situation on so many levels. It's going to be a case study in business and law and leadership, everything, right?
Yes.
Women's studies. I feel like it's crazy.
No, I was just about to say women's studies for sure.
And I love the fact that Jason Friedman filed his own lawsuit yesterday.
Jason's a total gem, and I feel for him so much and how painful and hurtful the organization and one of Snyder's attorneys has been, and given, in detail to put in public, in order to file that suit, it shows that he's had some personal issues going on, and, behind the scenes, he can't speak out either. Right. He was only able to speak because he had a government clause in his agreement or whatnot. So I know sending him love and support it means so much. But that is also the real ramifications to come forward. And he's said the kindest things to some of us. He came forward because of all of us and how brave and everything. And there's some real stuff here. This is not easy. So I really hope that, that works out really well for him.
Awesome. Well, I think that is going to, I think that's going to wrap. You're fine. I think it's going to wrap us for this week. But, just like Title IX is forever changing and we cover it all the time, I'm sure that this is a topic that we will continue to cover. And feel free to use our platform anytime you want to come on and have something.
Yes.
Megan, do you have contact information that if anybody our fans, a website that you want to direct people to, or fans?
We don't have a page really anymore. We were doing a petition and we had some other things going on. I think now if fans want to interact, it's just on Twitter is fine. Megan Imbert, try to keep it real simple. But I'm always happy to chat with people. And especially I've heard it's been amazing hearing from people that might be going through similar or different situations, and just know you're not alone. And I think the more we can be there for each other, it's gonna really help change some of these poor behaviors.
Yeah. I remember I told you about my story with the young lady I taught swim lessons to Michigan. And so Megan, thank you so much for coming on. I promised you half an hour. We've gone over that.
It's okay. I was like, man, that went by really fast.
And I know my Candy probably got home from work and jumped online. And I know my Megan is probably has to get on another show too. So
nice.
I'm sorry.
Well, please keep us in your thoughts the rest of this week. And hopefully,
thank you. I think that's Rudy.
Very cool. Well, thank you all so much for the support. Keep us in your thoughts this week, because, if we don't see any Mary Jo White report or watered down, chances are it's going to be a tough day for us. So appreciate you all so much.
Yeah, stand after the show if you want. I'm going to go ahead and end us.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Remember, PM us if you guys have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss. And we'll see you guys in 7 days. Peace.